The bullet missed Dante Romano by 3 inches. It shattered the glass behind him, and before the echo died, he had flipped the table, pulled his weapon, and shot the gunman twice in the chest. His men poured through the doors seconds later, too late, as always. He never needed them. Not for 12 years. Not since the night he stopped caring whether he lived or died. He stood over the body, breathing slow and even, and straightened his tie. "Clean it up," he said. That was a Tuesday. By Thursday he was back at the grave. White roses, same as always. Same headstone he had paid a stonemason a fortune to carve from pure Italian marble. Same inscription he had written himself at 3 in the morning while his hands shook for the first and last time anyone had ever seen. Amara Romano. Beloved. The only light I ever deserved. He stood there for 11 minutes. He had counted every visit. In 12 years, he had never stayed longer, never stayed shorter. 11 minutes. Then he walked back to the car, and the coldness came back over him like a curtain dropping, and he was the most feared man in the city again. His consigliere, Luca, was waiting at the car with the expression he wore when he had news he did not want to deliver. Dante had learned to read that face 20 years ago. "Talk," Dante said. Luca held out a photograph. Dante took it. A surveillance image, slightly grainy, taken from a distance. A busy outdoor market somewhere rural. Dusty road. Wooden stalls. And a woman standing at a vegetable stall with her back half turned to the camera. He almost handed it back. Then he looked again. The way she stood. The angle of her shoulders. The way her right hand rested on her hip when she was relaxed. Nobody stood like that. Nobody in the entire world stood exactly like that except one person who had been dead for 12 years. His fingers tightened on the photograph. "Where?" he said. It was not a question. Small village. 400 miles south. Our man was there for unrelated business and saw her by chance. "Boss, it could be a coincidence. It could be a relative, a cousin." "It's not a cousin." Dante's voice was completely flat. "What else?" Luca hesitated. That hesitation told Dante everything. There was something worse coming. There was a boy with her. Dante said nothing. Maybe 11, 12 years old. Our man didn't get a clear image of him, but Luca stopped. "Boss, do you want me to send a team to confirm?" "No team." Dante was already walking to the driver's side. "No one else. Just me." "Dante, that's not. Just. Me." He drove through the night and most of the next morning. 400 miles of highway and his mind completely silent because if he let himself think, he would either turn back or drive the car into a wall. Neither was acceptable. He needed to see. That was all. He just needed to see with his own eyes that it wasn't her, and then he could go back to his marble penthouse and his empire and his 11 minutes every Thursday and the rest of his life, which had been perfectly functional and completely dead inside since the night they put her coffin in the ground. He found the village just after noon. He parked at the edge of the market and sat in the car for 3 minutes. Then he saw her. She was laughing. That was the thing that broke something open in his chest. She was laughing, head tilted back, at something the woman at the next stall had said, and the sound didn't reach him across the distance, but he didn't need it to because he had memorized that laugh 12 years ago and he had heard it in his sleep almost every night since. Amara. Alive. No jewelry. Simple blue dress. A small basket over her arm. Laughing in a dusty village market like a woman who had built something quiet and real and wanted nothing from the world. And then the boy ran into her. He came from somewhere behind the stalls at full speed, nearly knocked her basket over, grabbed her around the waist and said something urgent and breathless, and she grabbed his face with both hands to check if he was hurt, and Dante saw the boy's face clearly for the first time. Everything stopped. The boy had his jaw. His nose. The exact shape of his brow. He was looking up at Amara with big dark eyes that were so completely and unmistakably Dante's own eyes that it felt like looking in a mirror that showed him something he had lost before he even knew he had it. His hand found the door handle without him deciding to move. Amara looked up. Across the crowded, noisy, sunbright market, her eyes found him like she had known he was there. Like some part of her had always known this moment was coming. Her face went white. She grabbed the boy's hand and ran. If you're watching this for the first time, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because this story is only getting started. Like the video so more people find it. Drop a comment, did she do the right thing? Let us know. Dante was out of the car. He didn't run. He walked with the long deliberate stride of a man who had never needed to chase anyone because eventually everyone came to him, but his heart was hammering against his ribs like it was trying to escape. He knew which direction she ran. He knew her. He had always known her. He found the house at the end of a narrow side road. Small. Clean. A child's bicycle leaned against the wall outside. He stood at the door for 4 seconds. Then he knocked. Silence. Amara. His voice came out rougher than he intended. I'm not leaving. Open the door or I'll stand here until morning. You know I will. A long pause. The door opened. She looked exactly like herself. That was the thing he was not prepared for. He had half expected time to have changed her beyond recognition, had almost wanted that, because it would have made this easier to process. But she was just Amara. Older the way a beautiful thing gets more interesting with time. A small scar above her left eyebrow that had not been there before. Eyes that had seen 12 years of something hard and quiet and chosen. She stood in the doorway and did not speak. The boy, Dante said. Where is he? He's safe. Away from here. Her voice was steady but her hands were pressed flat against the doorframe like she needed something to hold. He doesn't need to be part of this conversation. Is he mine? She said nothing. Amara. His voice cracked on her name. Just once. He pulled it back immediately but they both heard it. Tell me the truth. You owe me that. You owe me that much after 12 years of, he stopped. Started again. Is that boy my son? She closed her eyes. Yes, she said quietly. His name is Marco. The world rearranged itself. Dante put one hand against the wall because for the first time in 12 years his legs were not entirely reliable. He breathed in slowly through his nose the way he did when someone was pointing a gun at him and he needed to stay sharp. He breathed out. He looked at her. Come inside, she said, and stepped back. The house was small and scrubbed clean and full of a child's life, drawings pinned carefully to the walls, a pair of worn sneakers by the door, schoolbooks stacked on the kitchen table with a ruler placed neatly across the top like someone who cared about order. Dante stood in the middle of it and felt like an enormous wrong thing in a room that was entirely right. Sit down, Amara said. I don't want to sit down. Dante. Please sit down. He Saturday. She stood across from him with her arms folded and her chin up and he recognized that posture. She was terrified and she was not going to let him see it except that he had always been able to see it. Start from the beginning, he said. She told him. She had found out she was pregnant 4 days before the bombing. She had not told him yet. She was planning how to tell him, what words to use, whether to do something special or just say it simply. She had been walking around for 4 days with the most enormous secret of her life and smiling at him across dinner tables and she had never gotten to tell him. The bombing happened. She survived because she had stepped out of the car 30 seconds before it detonated. A coincidence. A random errand. She stood half a block away and watched the car burn and understood 2 things simultaneously, that they had tried to kill her, and that if they found out she was alive and pregnant, they would try again. They would never stop. A child of Dante Romano's blood was a weapon or a target, nothing else, and she was not going to bring a child into that. I had one person I trusted, she said. Rena. You never met her. She helped me disappear. New documents, new name, this village, everything. Rena, Dante repeated. One person. Yes. And my son grew up in. He looked around the small room and stopped himself because the contempt that rose in him was not fair and he knew it, and he was trying very hard to be fair right now even though fair was not something he was naturally good at. He grew up safe, Amara said sharply. He grew up without someone trying to use him against his father. He grew up without watching men get hurt in the next room. He grew up, Dante. That was the whole point. He grew up. Silence. Dante looked at his hands on the table. Strong hands. Hands that had done things he was not going to think about right now. You should have told me, he said. You would have brought us back. Yes. And they would have killed him. I would have protected him. The way you protected me. Her voice did not rise. It stayed completely level, and that was somehow worse. You had the best security in the country and they still put a bomb in my car, Dante. How were you going to protect a baby? He had no answer. He had no answer, and they both knew it, and the silence stretched between them like something that had been stretched too long to go back to its original shape. I named him Marco, she said, quieter now. After your father. I thought, she stopped. I thought you should have something, even if you didn't know it. Dante looked up. Something moved across his face that he did not bother to control. She saw it and looked away. I want to meet him, he said. I know. Tonight. Dante. I have missed 12 years. His voice was low and careful and absolute. I am not missing tonight. She nodded once. And then the headlights came. 3 sets. Flooding through the thin curtains in pale sweeping light. The sound of car doors. Multiple. Dante was on his feet before Amara registered what was happening, and he was at the window in 2 steps, standing to the side of it, not in front of it, old instinct. He looked out at an angle. 3 black vehicles. 6 men that he could see. Moving with the quiet, coordinated purpose of professionals. These are not my men, he said. Amara made a sound behind him. Marco, she said. His next door at the neighbors. How many ways out of this house? Back door through the kitchen, there's a path behind the. Go. Right now. Get him and go to the path and wait for me. He turned and looked at her. Amara. Look at me. Trust me one more time. Can you do that? She looked at him for 1 second that contained 12 years. One more time, she said. She went. Before you continue to part 3, if this story has you feeling something, like the video right now and drop a comment below, Team Amara or Team Dante. Let us know where you stand. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now so you don't miss the final batch. Dante opened the front door and stepped outside first. The 6 men stopped. He recognized the crest on the lead car's door. Valentino Carrera. His oldest enemy. The man who had ordered the hit 12 years ago. The man who had been inside his organization back then, the mole who had tipped them off about Amara's location the moment Dante had pulled that photograph. Dante Romano, the lead man, called out. Mr. Carrera sends his regards. Tell Carrera, Dante said calmly, that he has made a very significant mistake tonight. We're not here for you. We're here for the woman and the boy. I know what you're here for. He had 1 weapon. 6 men. No backup because he had come alone like an idiot driven by 12 years of grief and desperation. He almost smiled. He had won worse odds than this on worse nights than this. The first man raised his weapon. Dante moved. He took the first man down before the shot cleared the barrel. Close quarters, 1 sharp movement, the weapon redirected and then turned against its owner in less than 2 seconds. The second man came from the left and Dante dropped low and hit him hard at the knee, and the scream that followed bought him the half second he needed to come back up and put the man down cleanly. The third man fired and the shot went wide because Dante was already moving, never still, never where they expected him to be. He had learned a long time ago that the most dangerous thing in a fight was not the man with the most weapons. It was the man with nothing left to lose. He had spent 12 years being that man. But tonight was different. Tonight he had everything to lose, and that turned out to be even more dangerous. 4 minutes. 4 minutes and it was over, and he was standing in the dusty road breathing hard with his shirt torn and his hands cut, and 6 men on the ground around him who would wake up with the kind of regrets that changed a person's career choices. He walked around the side of the house to the path. Amara was there, standing very still with her arm around a boy who was pressed against her side and staring at Dante with enormous dark eyes. Eyes that Dante saw every morning in the mirror. Eyes that were wide with shock and something else, not quite fear but the edge of it, the place where a child stands when the world has just revealed that it is much larger and much more dangerous than anyone told them. Marco was taller than Dante expected. Lean. A serious face even now, even in the middle of this, like a boy who had learned to process first and panic later. He was wearing a school sweatshirt with a small architectural drawing on the cover of the notebook he was clutching to his chest. Even now, even running in the dark, he had grabbed his notebook. Dante looked at that notebook and felt something crack open in his chest that was never going to fully close again. "We need to move," Dante said quietly. "There will be more coming. My car is at the edge of the market." Amara nodded and took Marco's hand. Marco looked up at his mother. "Who is he?" he said. She looked at Dante. The question hung in the night air between all three of them. "Later," Amara said gently. "I promise. Later." They moved fast and quiet through the back roads, and Marco did not ask again. He kept pace without complaining and stayed close to his mother and watched Dante with those careful eyes that missed absolutely nothing. Smart boy. Dante noticed everything about him and tried not to make it obvious and failed completely because Amara caught him staring twice and looked away both times. They reached the car. Dante opened the back door for Amara and Marco and got behind the wheel and drove. Nobody spoke for 20 minutes. Then Marco said, from the back seat, "You fought 6 men." Dante looked at him in the rearview mirror. "Yes." "By yourself?" "Yes." Marco looked at his notebook. Looked back up. "Why?" Dante kept his eyes on the road. His jaw was tight. He chose the words carefully the way he never did because he had never needed to, he had always just said the thing and let other people manage how it landed. But this was different. This was the most important sentence he had ever constructed in his life. "Because you and your mother needed to be safe," he said. "And that is my job." Marco was quiet for a long moment. "You don't know me," the boy said. "No," Dante agreed. "Not yet." Another silence. Then Marco turned to look at Amara and something passed between them in the way that things pass between a mother and child who have been each other's whole world for a long time, a whole conversation in a single glance. Amara reached over and took Marco's hand. "He's your father," she said softly. "I'll explain everything. I promise I'll explain everything properly. But that's who he is." Marco looked at Dante's profile for a long time. Dante kept his eyes on the road and said nothing because there was nothing to say that was worth saying in this moment. Some moments you just had to let exist. "Okay," Marco said finally. "Just that." "Okay." And then he turned and looked out the window at the dark countryside passing and clutched his notebook to his chest and said nothing else, and Dante understood that okay was not acceptance or forgiveness or anything simple. Okay was a door cracked open by a 12-year-old boy who had more grace than anyone Dante had ever known. He gripped the steering wheel and said nothing and drove. They stopped at a safe house 3 hours away. Clean, stocked, unknown to anyone in Carrera's organization. Amara put Marco to bed in the back room and the boy went without argument, exhausted, though Dante suspected he lay awake for a long time. He would have. At 12 years old, learning your father is alive and dangerous and sitting in the next room, you don't just close your eyes and drift off. Dante sat at the kitchen table. Amara came back and sat across from him and for a while neither of them said anything. "Carrera," Dante said finally. "He had someone inside my organization. That's how he knew I pulled the photograph. Are you going to handle it?" "I already know who it is." "Yes. I'll handle it." She nodded. "After that," Dante said carefully, "I want to talk about what happens next." "For Marco." "For," he stopped. "I'm not going to pretend I have the right to walk back into your life and demand anything. I know what I am. I know what that life costs. But I need you to know that I am not the same man in the same way. I have been," he searched for the word. "Empty. For 12 years I have been completely empty and I functioned perfectly and I am telling you that functioning and living are not the same thing and I had forgotten that until 3 hours ago in a village market." Amara looked at him. "I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight," he said. "I'm just asking you not to disappear again. That's all. Just don't disappear." She was quiet for a long moment. "He draws buildings," she said. "That's what he wants to do. Design buildings. He has notebooks full of them. He's been doing it since he was 6 years old." Dante thought about the notebook clutched to the boy's chest in the dark. "I know. I saw. He's gentle. He doesn't like conflict. He cried for 2 days when a stray cat in the village died last year. She smiled faintly at the table. He is absolutely nothing like you. I know. And he is completely, entirely yours, she said. Every stubborn, careful, brilliant piece of him. Dante pressed his fingers against his eyes for a moment. Just a moment. Then he put his hands flat on the table and looked at her. Tell me everything, he said. 12 years. All of it. I want to know everything I missed. She looked at him for a long time. Outside, the night was quiet. The safe house breathed around them. In the back room, their son was either sleeping or staring at the ceiling, building imaginary structures in his mind the way he always did when the world was too large to process. Amara reached across the table and for the first time in 12 years, her fingers touched his hand. Okay, she said. From the beginning. And he sat forward and listened with his whole self, not the way a boss listens to intelligence, calculating and cold, but the way a man listens when someone is giving him back the years that were taken from him, one story at a time. He listened until the sky outside began to lighten. He listened like a man with 12 years of silence to fill. In the back room, Marco's light came on. And Dante Romano, who had not felt the future in 12 years, felt it now, uncertain and fragile and real and worth every battle still to come. If this story moved you, share it with someone who loves a good comeback story. Subscribe for more stories like this every week, hit the like button if you made it all the way to the end, and drop a comment telling us what you want to happen next, because Marco and Dante are just getting started.